Buying a car in Carvana was so easy. I was able to finance it through them.
Whoa, wait, you mean finance?
Yeah, finance. Got pre-qualified for a Carvana auto loan, entered my terms, and shot from thousands of great car options all within my budget.
That's cool, but financing through Carvana was so easy.
Financed. Done. And I get to pick up my car from their Carvana vending machine tomorrow.
Financed.
Right, that's what I said.
You can spend time trying to pronounce financing, or you can actually finance and buy your car today on
Carvana.
Financing subject to credit approval. Additional terms and conditions may apply.
Oh, welcome back to Bumbershoot, where we're covering life's chaos with humor and heart. And we're so excited to be in our season 3. It's like taking its own little path, this thing.
Yeah, that's right.
It's fun.
I love it. Yeah,
it's
it's
all
fun.
new and exciting. So we had a great visit with Ramon. Gosh, lots of tears. We didn't have any tissue. It was rough.
We need to get some tissue boxes in here.
Yeah, but he was definitely born to speak.
He's really good. He's such a good speaker.
I know. Thanks, Ramon. All right. Well, we're excited to have one of this year's beneficiary moms, Rosario, here today with us. Welcome, Rosario.
Hi. Welcome, Rosario.
Welcome.
Thank you for
We're
having
glad you're
me.
here.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I was so grateful when you said yes right away. I'm like, you never know if someone's going to be intimidated by it. I don't know if I could do it. But Rosario, you're on social media a lot, so I think you're probably more comfortable than the average person talking.
I don't know, honestly. I get so overwhelmed still, and so when I'm put on the spot, I get my brain shuts off, and when you ask me, I'm like, okay, well, I'm off work at 4. Who do I need to move around to make this happen? And then as I'm sitting there about to text somebody, you're like, never mind, let's do 5. And I'm like, perfect.
Yeah, 5. Well, thank you so much for making the time. We appreciate it.
Yes.
And we're just so in love with you and your family. And so
You're so beautiful.
Yes.
Sorry, I just had to say that.
We'll put pictures of her on
Yes.
the Instagram.
But yeah, so Rosario's son, Maddix, he was one of our child beneficiaries, star beneficiaries this year. And so I just want you to start out by sharing with us how you knew about Charity for Charity, how you heard about us.
Well, so over the past few years, I feel like a lot of people have spoken about charity, first of all, and then Charity for Charity. And I wasn't too familiar with it. And when I really started looking into it, I was like, wow, like what an amazing nonprofit, just giving, and being, blessing so many families. But then my family and I, we attend Reliance Church out here in Temecula. And as we were there was this gentleman that always sat like a few seats past us. And he would always just come up and just say hi to Maddix and just have this look of just such sincere look, and he would just give Maddix this genuine, beautiful look. And then later on, come to find out, he's like, hi, I'm Gig, and I just want to say I love Maddix. And he's like, do you know who Charity for Charity is? And I'm like, I've heard about it, actually. It's so funny you say that. A few people have just told me about this nonprofit. And he's like, yeah, Charity's my daughter, and he's just
He's
like
a proud daddy.
He is. He was just praising Charity, and
How sweet.
he was just, I don't know if it was that same day or if it was a few weeks later. And he's like, hey, I really want you to be, to like fill out an application or I want you to be a beneficiary this year. And I'm like, oh, I instantly froze. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this, And how did it go? Oh, and then Shirley,
The secretary of the church?
Yes, I go ahead and get a voicemail from her, and I'm like, what is Gig doing over here, So I call Shirley back, and I'm like, hey, Shirley, how are you? And she's all, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I don't know if you've spoken to Gig yet, but, we were talking about, and, we really want Maddix to be a beneficiary, to be able to fill out the application, and and so on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like the pressure, like I'm starting to sweat, I'm like, this is a lot. Cause I don't know, like my family and I have always been the givers, like we just even like to go out to dinner and just buy a random family their meal without like saying like, let's do it anonymous,
Yeah.
So like wanting someone to be able to give back, it's hard to take,
Yes,
like,
totally.
I don't know, like
that.
it's just, and so anywho, I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and do it, you know? So I finally did it. And then, Gig just kept asking every time. I'm like, Gig, I did it. I promise you. You know, every time I saw him. So then I'm like, why are you sitting so far from us? You know? So then he started sitting next to us, and every so often, you know, Maddix and Gig have this crazy connection. They are the sweetest, like,
It is so sweet.
2 peas in a pod, you know? Like, at night, we're like, all right, we're going to go to church tomorrow. Got to go to bed early. Got to wake up early, you know? And he just, first thing he looks at me, he'll say Gig or he'll say Nate for his uncle. But just Gig, you know? And as soon as I'm like,
so precious.
It
Oh
is
my gosh.
adorable. So, you know, Gig's walking up and I'm like, oh, here comes Gig. And his eyes just light up and bites his lip and waits for him to come around the corner. And the first person he always says hi to, you know, he goes straight to Maddix. And then, you know, we're like the chopped liver. So we get the hi afterwards. But, yeah, you know, they're just, and then he'll just sit there and just peek at his eye, corner of his eye the whole time. It's just, it's the sweetest thing.
That's
but-
so cute.
Yeah, it's
So
adorable.
It was Gig. I didn't know it was Gig. Oh
So
my God.
Dad was
didn't know that
telling
either.
me, he was like, Charity, I want you to come to church, because I hadn't gone to church in a long time. He's like, I want you to come with me. There's this family. It's just this most beautiful family, and their son's in a wheelchair, and he just gets so excited with the music. It's like he gets out of his chair with the music. And I was like, well, Dad, how old is he? And he said, I don't know exactly. I think he's like 10 or 11, like that. I think he was pretty accurate. And I said, well, you know, nominate them. And he's like, but he can't nominate because he's on the board.
Oh.
So that's why I think he was pressuring you to nominate, because he's like,
There's a lot
I
of
can't
pressure.
do it.
That makes sense.
So I said, okay, Dad, you know, I'll get there. And I just, one thing after another, I didn't get there. And then the application came through. We had our board of directors, or advisory board, I guess we call it. It's a team of us. It's like 10 or 12 of us. It's a lot, and it's really, really hard to go through those applications. But and we don't even if we know that someone's nominated, we don't say anything because we don't want influence. We want it to be very organic selection, and you know, really go through the things and fairly. We want it to be fair. Yep. So the crew just fell in love with Maddix and the family too. On paper, I mean, you know, it's on paper, but Rosario, can you tell us like what is Maddix's? I don't know. What do you say? Like
Diagnosis?
diagnosis?
Yeah.
Diagnosis.
So when originally his first what's it called? His very first diagnosis when he was born was likely to be arthrogryposis. So that's basically contractures throughout your body. It could affect every single limb to maybe just, you know, your
What are you saying? Contractures?
contractures. So like,
Oh, how his hands do?
yeah, because he can't fully extend his fingers. So think of like arthritis, right? It contracts your fingers or your knees or whatever, you know? So whatever like mobility that you have, that's like it contracts it. So with arthrogryposis alone, so with his hands, he basically came out with them like as fists, and you couldn't really open it. Like you could barely stick a Q-tip through there.
Oh, okay.
So, but of course, you know, first time mom, all my ultrasounds, all my doctor's appointments, everything was just great, you know. But the only thing was that he was Frank Breach. So he basically had his hands tucked underneath his chin, and he had like his right leg to this left ear and right leg to the right ear, and then left leg to the left ear. And he was basically like that for months, you know. And they told me like, well, we can go in and turn him. And I'm like, well, what are the pros and cons? You know, I don't want anything that could potentially harm him, obviously. And they're like, well, it could, you know, lower his heart rate. The umbilical could possibly wrap. And I'm like, no, you know. And of course, this was before I really knew much about like chiropractic care and everything, because I actually found out that they could actually naturally turn the baby in as a chiropractor, you know?
Yeah.
But anywho, so when he was born, I had a cesarean. And as soon as like my husband, the way he explained it was like, you know, we carry him over to like the table and you bring his legs down and just like with springs like on his legs, like, bang, you know, like it could like shoots right back up, which they said that could be, you know, that would happen until like he relaxes and whatnot. So he goes into the hospital, or we're in the hospital. We finally get him into the room with me. And I remember I kept looking at his hands, and of course, like, I don't know what I'm looking at.
Right.
Obviously, I'm looking at a baby. I know that much, but not like what's gonna happen.
You had some kind of sense about his hands, maybe?
I don't know. So it was just like,
at
I
them.
just kept looking, and his little chin was like, his face was so smushed, and his little chin was pushed back, and it was crazy because whenever you put his hands together, like his fingers align where they're like the contractures were, they just kind of like align perfectly. So I'm like, maybe it's not necessarily arthrogryposis, and I was talking to his doctor, and this doctor's like, well, it's likely to be just because we don't really have answers. It's just a possibility. I'm like, okay, whatever. So at the end of the day, my husband and I was just focused, he's a child. That's it. Like, we don't have to label him with anything. So then we realized that he did have hip dysplasia. So he did have to have a bilateral hip surgery. He was around 3. But then he also
hip surgery. I don't remember all these.
Yeah, it was insane. They had to bend both femurs 30%, put rods in there, get little bone fragments from like the upper. Yeah, it was crazy. He was in a spica cast for like 2 months, I want to say, and then with the rods in his body for 2 years, like oh my gosh, his doctor and I bumped heads a lot. Like I would leave crying out of frustration, just because he didn't want to listen to me, but whatever. That has passed. But and then he also has kyphosis, which kyphosis is his limber. Like he doesn't really have trunk support or anything like that.
Yeah, so he can't control his.
Yeah, so that's why they were so confused because they're like, if he has arthrogryposis, how is he having kyphosis as well?
Right, that would be like oxymoron, right?
Yes. So they've always said like he's just one of a kind right now, So I was going to go see a rehab medicine doctor because his occupational therapist asked if I've ever thought about doing Botox on his hips before we really go into the actual hip surgery. And I'm like, what? Botox on a baby? I was so confused just because I've never honestly even thought about that. So I started, doing research. I'm like, oh, I guess it's a thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I went to go see a doctor about it, and he asked me what's his diagnosis. And I was like, oh, it's arthrogryposis. And he's all, huh. Oh, by the way, he also had an MRI. So that's going to lead me back to this. So he's like, oh. And I'm like, oh, what? And he's like, oh, just from his MRI, I would say he's got a cerebral palsy. And I'm like, excuse me? Full on tunnel vision happening, for the second time with Maddix. And I'm just like, what is happening right now? And so I called his doctor and I was pissed. Okay. Yeah. I was like, how is it that we did an MRI. You said he's fine. You said his MRI is fine. And I'm going to a doctor and they're telling me that he's got a new diagnosis now, which is cerebral palsy. And she's like, well, an MRI is just an image. So it doesn't necessarily pertain to it doesn't necessarily show what his abilities would be. And as she started describing more of it, explaining it. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. But still don't tell me that his scan was accurate.
Yeah, or
totally
perfectly fine. Yeah.
But I'm leaving this doctor's office now with another diagnosis, So there's a whole other thing I have to research. So there was all that.
Okay.
And
we have the air conditioning on in here, so it's drying all of our throats out as we're talking. Sorry.
So basically, from then on now, he's got his main ones are arthrogryposis and cerebral palsy. And
are you saying cerebral palsy?
Yeah, which that's basically an injury to the brain causing contractures and stuff and stiffness or anything throughout the body. So then that falls back also. Okay, so if you're having all these stiffness through your body and all, are you still so limber on your torso?
Why can't you hold your back up?
His genetic doctor's always like, oh, he's just going to be that kid that's going to keep me on my toes, basically, So, his genetic doctor basically asked us if we would want to do an exome sequencing test, which that basically tests all his genes. And I was like, I don't know if I want to know everything.
Yeah,
you know,
that could be
that's
a
a
whole
little creepy.
nother-
Like I already walked in with one doctor appointment with all like, good spirits and leaving like, what the heck is happening? Another like, thing just smacked me in the face.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing it. I talked to my husband about it. We both agreed like, let's do it. Like,
Maybe you can get
what's
some
it gonna
answers.
change?
Yeah,
Exactly,
and
you
get some
know?
answers, yeah.
So we ended up doing it. And he has a microdeletion in his 15th chromosome, which is 15q11.2. Yeah. Write that down.
You
and
sound like a
remember
doctor.
it.
What does that mean?
So they're stating, though, that with that microdeletion, it shouldn't do too much. Shouldn't. You always have to love the verbiage that they use. And I'm always the one dissecting it. Well, what do you mean shouldn't? Or, possible. What do you mean possibly? I'm always that like.
That's a good
it's
moment
not
there.
like,
That's right.
yeah, don't
You
give me all
should.
these possibilities, right? You gotta advocate. And she was basically just stating, if anything, like it is falling on what he's having because he was developmentally delayed. He wasn't, talking or crawling, doing anything that a typical kid is doing. But I always said, well, Einstein didn't speak until he was 5. Okay, so you never know.
That's right.
Got to keep that hope up. And then later on, we did another extensive test that his neurologist actually nominated us for. And it was like fully covered. Like we didn't even pay a penny out of it.
Nice.
And this was like more intense, know? And that one, they found out that he's got a rare gene abnormality, which is the PCD or PCGH-A7, right? I know. There's so many numbers and everything. But he's the second person in the U.S. that has it.
Wow. Really?
So the other person, they don't know if they're like anything connected, because they don't have any similarities, evidently. So they're basically like into the system that if anybody else gets that, it's going to be feeding into it. And they'll alert you like, hey, we found someone here that has, the same rare gene abnormality, but it could be something or it could be nothing. It could be a fluke. We just don't know. But so again, we just
How
like,
old
take
is
it
that
every
other
day.
person?
I don't know. They can't really give too much information, but I just know that they live in Seattle.
Oh, I'm just
But
curious if
once
it's an
they're
adult or if
older,
it's a
yeah.
child.
I want to say they're older, and so many people are always like, how is it so rare? I'm like, well, how many people actually get these tests done?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like you never know. So again, it could be something or it could be nothing. It's just kind of like something that's up there. So in the end of the day, minus all the, besides all the diagnoses and all those like different things that, doctors just keep throwing at, the negative ones, you always got to rise above it. It's
right.
just, in the end of the day, we just see him as he's got cerebral palsy because we already know, like, he doesn't meet that many qualifications, I guess.
Yeah.
Sounds weird. To have arthrogryposis, But
Yeah.
again, it's like, till this day, I tell my husband, I swear it was because of positioning. Like, his fingers didn't get to fully develop because, like, his skin is, like, attached, so like he's got the joint.
That
but
makes
the
perfect
skin
sense.
It's like webbed almost.
Because his feet don't do it, right?
No.
So it definitely sounds
Yeah.
like they just grew that way.
Right. Because he was in there like that for months, and that child just grows by the second, and you can only imagine when he was in me, like stop growing.
So because there's no visual, can just to kind of describe Maddix in a like. What is it like seeing Maddix? He's in a chair. He sits up in a chair, but
He's got support, definitely. He is handsome as ever.
he's a
He is
really
the
is.
cutest. He has the best smile. He's the cutest kid.
He is.
Definitely has a smile that can light up the room,
Yep.
Yes.
and those eyes that can like light up the darkest days. You know what I
Totally.
mean?
Yeah.
And you dress him so cute. And he's 11 now.
Yeah, it's 11 and a half. He'll be 12 this year, which, oh my gosh, it's so depressing.
Yeah.
But, I definitely have to give credit to my husband because he's my husband's twin. At the end of the day, they are identical. And if you put them like side by side, they're usually dressed the same
They're dressed
too.
very similar.
So
Yeah.
cute.
And Brixton's your twin.
Yes.
You each have a twin.
Yes,
But
my
Jace
youngest.
was telling me, so he's like, I don't know when this conversation happened, but we were briefly talking about something about him working out. And I said, oh, that's so good. You work out. I wish I did. He goes, I have to. I hate it, but I have to lift Maddix. And if I don't work out, I won't be able to lift Maddix because he is a solid kid.
Yes, he's like 105 to 110 pounds. And that conversation was at the cruise.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Because I was telling you, look at those fit arms that you have going on over there. And you're like, I was born this way.
Oh yeah, with Jace it was like a while. I don't know. It was a while back, but yes, thanks. Yeah, that was.
We started talking about workout again. My husband.
I literally said that to her today. I was like, "How do you not work out and you look like you work out all the time?"
Real, right? It's not fair.
It's just my
It's
arms.
wrong. It's wrong.
That's all. It's just my arms.
You're so
Anyways,
lucky.
this isn't about me. Okay, so
Sorry.
because he doesn't walk or stand on his own, so you and Jace lift him and move him.
Yes.
All the time.
Oh, yeah. And it's crazy because when he was younger, he wasn't a gait trainer. So it's basically like, not a scooter, but it's like a baby walker. It looks like a baby walker.
Kind of like
you know,
it
you have
sounds.
4
a gait
wheels.
trainer. Yeah.
You put him in there, give him the support, they strap in, and they basically, like, it helps them walk. And he was doing so good with it. Like, I have these videos, and I get so depressed because I'm like, the reason why he stopped is because when he was younger, we gave him baclofen, which is basically a muscle relaxer to try to relax his muscles because being so tense, you know. And this is before I did a lot of research on a lot of things, you know, and when I was naive. And it was to help basically eliminate the process of having to potentially do the surgery, you know? So the baclofen just zonked him out. Like, he was supposed to be taking 3 doses a day, and we only gave him 1, and it was the lowest dose.
Wow.
And like,
still having an
he
effect.
literally just zonked on the couch or just zonked in my arms. And like when his teacher, his early intervention would come over, she'd be like, "Oh, he looks tired today." I'm like, "It's that damn medication, you know, like, I need to stop it because I don't know if it's doing much, honestly, at this point. Like, he's regressing so much." And he was on it for about 8 months. And those 8 months were just totally miserable. That just basically killed his muscle mass. And he was like never able to really walk on his gait trainer as much as he was walking before. And the second, like, I told his doctor, his rehab med back then, and I told him, like, you know, like, this medication is not for him. You know, like, he has just regressed so much. And he's like, and this is the one doctor that I did really respect because he said, "Your mom, you know best." Yeah. You know, you don't get a lot of that, you know?
No, that's Ramon said that too. And I was like, so happy to hear some of these doctors say that because
Absolutely.
you don't
Give me
hear it that
chills.
often.
Ugh. It's not because of the air either. So I was like, all right. And he's like, so just go to, like, start cutting down to, like, you know, 2 doses to 1 dose. And I'm like, we're still at the first dose.
Oh my God.
And he's like, wow, it's affecting this much. And he basically said his body's not, like, metabolizing it, you know? So then he's like, all right, just, like, bring it to his lowest dose. I'm like, he's at the lowest dose too. And he's like, oh my gosh, you know? He's like, yeah, definitely.
Stop
this isn't
it.
the right medication for him, you know? So, but he's like, just don't quit cold turkey because it could really affect him. You really have to
Wean him,
you know? So we did. And within those 2-3 weeks, his early intervention teacher comes back and she's like, "What is different about Maddix? Like, he's so vocal, blah, blah." I'm like, he's off medication. Like, he's more alert. He's attentive. Like, he's wanting to do things, you know, and he's back to being himself, you know? So
Nice.
I just want to interject for a split second and say that anybody listening that is afraid to question doctors or afraid to, like, pick up on things like you did, I encourage you to listen to yourself. Yep. Because I don't want to get it. I mean, it's just important to self-advocate and to listen to your child and to your intuition because that doctor was right. Parents do know best. And I know it could be hard and you want to do the right thing all the time and you don't want to, like, disregard something that could help them. But if you see what you saw, that was critical in his everything, developmental to, you know, like, even like memory, like, but, and it was crazy because even like when I was talking about getting his hip surgery done with the doctor that he had, that I would leave crying. After he had his hip surgery, Maddix would
when he had the hardware in, he would scream bloody murder in the middle of the night, like having muscle spasms. And I'd tell my husband, like, this cannot be normal. And he's like, let's get a doctor's appointment going, you know? So I can't tell you the amount of times I went to go see the doctor in San Diego, and I would tell him, and he's all, well, it shouldn't. I'm like, but it is, you know, like, figure it out. Like, you are the doctor. If you want to have this title that I need to be coming to you for these things, like, figure it out. And he's all, well, the hardware shouldn't be. I was like, it doesn't matter what it should or shouldn't be. It is.
It is.
I'm like, if you want to come to my house and sleep with my child, well, you know, watch him sleep. That sounds so awful. But to see what we are going through and to see what he is going through, like, you don't want to watch your child, like, be in so much pain, you know, especially when it's cold out. And all these people, even my husband has hardware on his ankle, and he's all, I could only imagine, because when it's cold out, my husband and Maddix both run hot, so they never complain about being cold. But with his ankle hardware, like, he said it'll hurt.
It hurts. So it definitely does.
You have two on each side. Of course those hips are going to hurt, you know?
Poor baby.
And finally, we got him out, and here we are, you know, totally being okay now. And that's what we told the doctor. Like, you know, he had him in for about 2 years or so. And in 2019, in December, he took it out. And we told him, well, yeah, he's fine now. He's all, well, I guess you were right. I just want to strangle him. And the day, like, my husband met the doctor for surgery, because I had to, like, put my feelings aside. I'm like, he's a great doctor, bottom line. He knows what he's doing. I cannot just get up and leave and go to try to restart this whole thing again, you know?
For sure, yeah.
And my husband meets him, and he's all, he's such a nice guy. And I'm like, I look at him with, like, death stare. I'm like, that is the doctor that's been making me cry. And he's all, really? I'm like, but I finally gained his respect when it was Christmas morning one year, and he asked me, like, you know, how's everything going with Maddix? This is before his surgery. And I told him, you know, with his microdeletions, the chromosome of his microdeletion is 50th chromosome, and the rare gene abnormality. And I told him, and he's like, well, what is it? And I told him, he's all, what do you do for work? And I'm like, it doesn't pertain to anything we're talking about right now. You know, I'm just letting you know what he has. And he's all, well, how are you sort of, like, knowledgeable with all this? And I'm like, he's my son. Of course I'm going to research everything, you know? Right. And ever since that day, I got those, like, brownie points, and he liked me ever since then, you know? I'm like, all right, cool, like, here we are now.
Gained mutual respect.
Yes, there we go.
But, I think with doctors, it's hard, too, because everybody's different. Everybody's symptoms can be different. And, you know, I think that the key when you're a doctor is to not be like, like, encourage, like, they know a lot, but they don't know everything. And so, it's bedside manner that really makes a difference in the experience, because if I haven't learned anything and with all of you families is that you have to self-advocate and you got to do the research, because you know your child the best.
Absolutely.
And you know your body the best. So, you know, if we're talking about adult beneficiaries, you know your body the best. So, you know, they don't know that. They're not experiencing, like you said, he's not sleeping at home hearing Maddix moan. And so, I just love hearing how, and that's what I just love. Our beneficiary parents are like the strongest, most incredible humans. And they, you know, talk about a love for your really child. You know, you do whatever you need to do to help your kids. And so I'm glad you ended up with that mutual respect for that doctor. And
you deserve
it. Good that it got there.
Thank you. And I know, like, in piggybacking what you're saying right now, is it's so important too, especially because my Maddix is nonverbal. I don't know if we
we didn't say that. Yeah, we didn't.
So it's always a guessing game.
Right.
You know, so, like, we as parents, like, know, like, okay, he wants this or he wants that. Or someone that's super close, like my nanny, you know, she's a godsend, and she knows exactly what he needs. Just like, you know, my parents, my in-laws, my close friends, you know, they know, like, what he wants or what he needs during that time. Or if you ask him something, he'll tell you no, like, straight up. And we're like, okay, sorry, bye. You know, he doesn't want to.
Yeah, he has a couple words. Gig,
yes.
no,
exactly. Like, he picks and chooses, you know. But I think when you have those doctors that really, like, those two doctors of his neurologist and his rehab med, that basically said, like, this image doesn't, you know, say who your child is.
Oh,
you
yes.
know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
That's the different words. She said something
But we got
else.
it. We got it. Yeah.
And I'm like 100% because then again with the rehab medicine doctor, he's like, we just see what our notes on there, what images are there.
Yes, exactly.
And at the end of the day, when we hear from the parents and the parents are really advocating, that's what we know.
And it helps them a lot.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's like they call it practice medicine for a reason because they're practicing on you or your children.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you don't advocate and if you're not opening that door of possibilities for that next person, then they're just going to continue doing.
Oh gosh, I hate to cut you off, but we got to split this into 2 parts because there's so much information and so much to say. So we are going to, I did edit this and it was so perfect how I faded out. But now, for some reason, I didn't do it. So I apologize for the sharp cut off, but that's not all because we'll be back next week and we'll pick up where we left off today. And you'll hear the rest of Rosario talking about her experience with Maddix and then their experience with Stars of the Valley. So we will be back next week. Thank you so much for listening.